that's something that I like with allies. One of the things about the persistent characters, the persistent world, I'm sorry, is that you can run plots that are only 1 to 3 sessions long, and it's not so much a one shot. Where, like in D&D, for a one shot, you generally bring a character specifically for that game.
Hmm.
And then when that game is over or that short storyline is over, that character's done unless you sneak them in another one later on, some other one shot, you know.
What? I'd never do that. That's never
But
happened before.
but people can't generally maintain. I mean, there are some that have, and it's awesome, great. They've been able to maintain these long campaigns, but
Oh,
most of those fall apart halfway through.
mhm.
So, what's nice about Eyes of Majesty is the character mix, the players can shift. Who's there this week can be fine. You don't have to call it off because one person couldn't make it if you have, like, if somebody else could. Now, if you're right in the middle of a fight and you're paused, it might be like, let's just wait till that guy shows up next week. But otherwise, though, generally you can just flex it around. Or heck, you could be like, hey, so and so can't make it. We'll leave that game on pause. Let's do another session this time.
Yeah.
But ultimately, the characters persist long. You keep these characters through storyline after storyline after storyline after storyline, and so they, even though the story isn't about them, they still grow in depth because you have this history. And it's fun when you get together with other players and they have their characters and you're like, wait, has this character run with that guy? No, they haven't. They're meeting each other for the first time. Even though I know how you play as a player, our characters are meeting each other for the first time. Or you have that time where we haven't run together in a while, but Cabal and Atsum used to run together a lot, which is a character of Miguel's. And when they got back together, it was like, always felt really good. Like, yeah, it's been a while. It's like brothers reuniting.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
yeah, so it brings a whole different dynamic, and it allows you to have rich character depth and progression. Because even if you do sneak your character into a different one shot, they don't have that history with the other characters in the one shot. But you in Allies of Majesty can shift who's running the game, who's hosting, who's DMing or GMing, can shift per little short storyline, and you don't have to have forever GMs. Nobody
Hmm.
has to be stuck as the forever GM. But even though the human stories are short and they change up and they change up, the characters have depth and history of relationship, and they have a history, and that's a fun thing. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
unique,
for sure.
I would
And
say.
yeah, for sure. I mean, and the thing is that the closest thing, as I've talked to you, and actually pretty recently about it, is that like the closest thing with that setup is Delta Green. But even
Yeah,
then, Delta Green, your character dies, your character's dead.
yeah,
Like, unless you want to say you could, just because of the way it's set up as like a mission oriented thing,
sure,
like you could say this is before they died, and you get to
right,
play him like one more time if
right,
like somebody of those characters people really liked, or whatever. Like there's ways to work
right,
around it, whatever and whatnot. But the problem with that system is that your characters are expected to die, and so you can't run really long campaigns unless you get really
right,
creative. Like there was a podcast that was using that system, but like their sanity meter was like almost to zero, and so he was like, how do I fix this?
yeah,
And then granted, it was a really cool story moment, but that's why they introduced time travel. He had to introduce time travel to fix that problem.
yeah,
Like, and so that's an obstacle you have to work around when making stories like that. Which
yeah,
if you already know what you're getting into and you're planning around it, that's not the end of the world. But like
right,
still, that's something you don't got to worry about with allies. There's a
right,
there's a lot of things that can be finagled with, and it doesn't negatively impact the game in any way, shape, or form, which makes it very versatile and
yeah,
very flexible in a lot of ways.
yeah.
Which,
Yeah,
like,
yeah. While it loses flexibility on some fronts, it gains a lot of unique flexibility on other fronts. And I think for some people, I don't expect it to be everybody's only RPG. I don't really expect them to change over and this is it. That's not the way RPGs are. I mean, it's you play around. It might be I hope a lot of people's main RPG, or for a while at least. But the thing is with it is it does new things. It offers unique settings. It's not just another setting with dwarves and elves and or whatever, or another. It brings unique things that even crossing between cyberpunk and high fantasy don't cover. Or sci-fi and high or any of those. Like those don't. They have some unique. They're unique among compared to each other in some ways, but Allies brings in things that's unique to both of those.
well, and like it's
Yeah.
one of those things where it's like, oh, like let's say Warcraft, Warhammer, not 40K, just normal Warhammer,
Yeah.
and Lord of the
Warhammer Fantasy, yeah.
Rings. Exactly, it's like, oh, they're so different if you really get into it. But like if
Yeah.
I bring it up to like Grandma, she's gonna say, oh, it has orcs, and I know what those are because I've read Lord of the Rings, and
Yeah.
so. This one has orcs, and that one has orcs, and the Lord of the Rings has orcs, so I know what orcs generally do.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. Yep.
I don't know. I've probably told her enough about Warcraft. Maybe she knows a bit now. But like, still, the point is that
Grandma
like,
knows Warcraft.
gosh, that sounds like a podcast.
It
It
does.
sounds awesome. I would totally listen to that.
That's a great podcast. Oh, anyway.
That sounds awesome. But like the point is that like Allies has something that's like wholly unique to itself in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Just because it's something
Yeah.
people didn't really, I guess, bother to tackle.
Yeah.
Which is unfortunate because a lot of really good opportunities.